So jumping right into the web form discussion, we do have one how-to page on the El Condado website. So if you come to our training guides site, there is one page on how to put together a web form. It's pretty bare bones. It's pretty straightforward. It basically just leads you through the first step of how to create a web form without going into many details. This is something that we might want to spend some time to put more resources on this page. But if you do need to just get a jump start, you can use this resource. So I have a brand new page right here called Web Forms Example. And the goal today for the first part of this presentation is to put a web form on this page. And there's one web form that I was working with recently that I think is going to be a really good example. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to recreate a real life web form, or at least specific parts of it. And that web form is on Santa Clara's website. It's their temporary judge application form. And this is quite an extensive web form, and there's a lot going on. I am going to start with some of the basics and then do some of the fancy stuff with conditions towards the end. But here is a sneak peek at what the back end of this web form looks like. And it looks crazy, right? There's a lot going on. There are so many different elements. Anywhere right here in this column, it says conditional. Anything you see here is conditional. So you see as I scroll down, there are quite a few conditionals. So there is a lot going on here, but it actually is pretty straightforward to set up. So just to demystify this from the beginning to the end, I'm going to recreate quite a bit of this web form for you today. And again, stop me if anything comes up that you have a question about. So to start a web form, let's say you are on the homepage of your site. You are going to go up to the Structure tab, click on Web Forms. First thing that you're going to see is all the web forms that have been created already, and you can click into them. Oh, you know what? I'm on Santa Clara's website. I actually want to go back to El Condado, so I don't accidentally add a new web form on their site. Okay, so here on El Condado, I'm going to click on Web Forms. And
Peter,
then, yeah, go
Peter,
ahead.
I think it might help if you reduce your font size a little bit so that we can see the whole picture.
Ooh, reduce my font size. It looks quite small on my screen. Is it looking goofy for anyone else?
Well, I mean, it's just me, but I think it may help us to visualize the whole thing if you can reduce the font size a little bit. There we go. That
Better?
helps.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, excellent. Okay, so on Web Forms page, I'm going to click Add Web Form. And let's call this Temporary Judge Example. Click Save. Okay, so now what we have is a blank web form here that just has this title. To add different elements, you just click Add Element. The basics of this is pretty straightforward. The first thing that you're going to be adding, again, let's just take a look at this. This is what we see first. And this is a thing called section. One thing you can do, by the way, if you are new to web forms, more than likely your website does have already a couple of web forms on it. So you can reference your current existing web forms and then just kind of like recreate it from there, which is what I still do quite often. But okay, so I'm going to start with this section. And this is just going to be a title. So I'll just call this section 1. And I'm going to click Save. And by the way, you can view your progress by, I'm going to open this in a new tab, clicking on the test view. And let's see what we have so far. Okay, so far we just have section 1, and then we have the submit button, which is here by default. So to keep adding here, the next element is called select other. And let me remind myself what they have here. Okay, right. So we're going to be selecting a title for this element. This is a select other element. And let's say if they have Mr. This is and other. Click save. And then I'm just going to refresh this, make sure it's all populated here. Okay, so here we go. We're able to select one of these options here. Very straightforward. The next thing is going to be name. I think they have like name, address, and email, a few of those. These already exist. You just have to look for name. Here it is, super straightforward. Oh, and when you are adding elements like name, address, etc., there are quite a few options for how to style this or include various things. So if you don't want someone's middle name to be taken, you just deselect that. If you don't want a suffix, you can just, etc. So you can customize these quite a bit. It takes actually a lot of information if you take just the generic version of it. That's name. Let me do one more. I'll do address. Same thing. I'll deselect some of these. Oh, I need this. Not sure why this isn't saving. Okay, interest of time, we're going to skip that. The next one is going to be another section. So let me add one more section and then I'll refresh. And these sections are important because they do break up, especially long web forms. It's good to break them up a little bit. So let's see what we have so far. We have section 1. We're taking Miss, Mr., etc. title, because I must have duplicated that. Then we have first name, last name, and then we have section 2. And then the next one is going to be a text field. See what they have in their text field. Looks like they're taking California bar number. These get more fun. These are just the basic ones so far, but they get more exciting. And if you want to make one of these elements required, you just have to check this box here. So they have the state bar number required. So we'll check that. Then let's see what they have next. Then they have a couple of radio buttons, also very straightforward. And by the way, if you are unfamiliar with these web forms, I do recommend kind of scrolling through here and checking out what they have. There's a lot. I won't cover today, obviously, but it's all pretty straightforward. There's the example of what you can add. So if you do just scroll down here, you can see all the different options, but I am going through the basic ones today. Most of like the ones, especially as you scroll down, a lot of these we just don't use hardly at all, but they are here. So you can get very creative with these. So there was a radio next. I will note also that there can be very important differences between similar sounding elements like radios versus radio other versus an entity radio. So if you want radios to do a specific thing and it's not, just try a different type of radio, but it looks like right now we're just going to do the basic ones.
Sure.
I'll just call this radio so we know what it is. And we're going to say option 1, description. Option 2, description. These description fields let you put in a lot of information, by the way, so you can define pretty clearly what you want in the radios. Let me see how this looks. Okay, yep, your radio buttons. Now, I think we're about to get to one of our conditionals. Let's do... Okay, so here's going to be the first conditional that we're coming to. When you click on this, you'll notice this drop down pops up. This sort of thing is created with a conditional. It's very straightforward once you've done it, but it can be confusing the first time you see one of these. So let me build this. Okay, the first thing is going to be a checkbox, actually. I think that it was called I am a certified specialist. I don't know if they had much description here. I'll just leave it like that. And then they had I believe a text area next. I think it was this one, right? So let's click here. I'll call this condition. And we want this to appear. So by the way, one quirky thing with these web forms is these conditions, they're kind of hard to set up just for the mere fact that you have to scroll sideways like this, which can be, I've noticed, a pain on a desktop. It's quite a bit easier on a laptop. So if you are working on a desktop and you're having trouble scrolling to see the other options, there's probably a better way to do it, but I just work off my laptop. But in any case, the important thing is to just kind of like carefully think about what these options do. So I want this to be visible, and there's 2 different types of visible. It can just pop up or it can slide. I think that there's slid, so I'll do visible slide. And let's see. It is going to be, you want your conditional to be based on the most recent item that you created, most likely. So if you just scroll down all the way down here, you'll see this is the I am a certified specialist that we just created this checkbox. And we want this to be visible when that item is checked. Okay, so hitting save here, and save again. We should have our conditional set up. Okay, so yep, here we go. Now when we check this on, this appears. It's appearing with some default text, which you can make that go away. But I'll just leave that for now. Great. Now, let me see before I go to the next one. Any questions so far, or is there any element that you've seen that you want me to maybe go through further?
Yeah, one quick question. Can you set a conditional on the section?
Yes. Is there anything in mind that you have in mind?
Yeah, I mean, let's say if I pick radio button, option 1, I want to display not just one text field, but one whole section of information.
Oh, I see. Yes. Yeah, that's actually a really good question. What you can basically set a condition on kind of anything, and what you can do, I mean, I might have to play around with it to make sure this is correct, but what we can do, so here's a section, right? You can slide everything, just drag and drop it so that it goes under here. And then you can set a condition on this section like here, if this element were a checkbox, you could say have this section appear if this is checked. That's how I believe you would do that. But yeah, I believe you would want to make sure that these are all slid underneath it, or else you might just have just this appear. I think that that's probably the trick.
Okay. Can you click on the edit button for section 2 real quick? I just want to take a look and see what it looks like. Oh, there we go. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so there is that. Yeah, all this is set up here.
Cool, thank you.
You'd probably make it so like visible if, you know, and have the next item up be a checkbox if that were checked, that sort of thing.
What is
Good
under
question.
events?
I'm sorry?
What is under events? We have general, condition, and events. What is it?
Good question. Let's see. General condition advanced. Okay, so this is probably for if you're doing some styling or have some YAML.
Cool.
One thing with web forms is, yeah, there's just, you can kind of do whatever you want. It does leave it open to really get creative with these. Okay, let's hit back to our actual web form. So I'm going to scroll down to the bottom here. The reason why I'm aware of this web form actually is because of this little section right here, which looks very straightforward, but it actually was a little bit of a pain to set up. And so I want to walk through this to show you what kind of a more complicated condition can look like. And yeah, we'll recreate it together so that we'll show how this works. But so this very straightforward thing, here's a section. Oop, this is a section, right? And then this says select, and this is required. If you select settlement attorney, you're good to go. You can move on. But if you select temporary judge, or if you select both, there's this pop-up here that you need to fill out. And this is created through a condition. So let's recreate this on our example web form. Okay, so the first thing is, let me do another section. Condition example 2. Okay. And then the first thing we're going to need are some radios. I'll just call these radios. And I think that they had 3 options. So option 1, option 2, and then, oops, what happened? 1, option 2, and then both. Okay. And then after that, we're going to create, let me look at it one more time, checkboxes. Okay. So we're going to add some checkboxes next. And this is where we're going to put our conditions. So I think in these checkboxes, it looked like they had 2 checkboxes. I think there was, let's call this checkbox 1, checkbox 2. I did also notice that there was some more information. I think it was probably under more text. So this is more text. I'll call this see more. I think that that's what they use. So we'll see how that works. But okay, so these are our checkboxes. 1, 2, and then we're going to set our conditions to determine when these show up. And then I think that there are different ways you can do it, but I think that how we're going to set this up is we're going to make this hidden. click on our radios. Oops. And then we want to, this again is where this gets a little bit tricky, because you're going to select value is, the value of that radio is 2. Because if you have one or both, you want this to show up, but you want it to be hidden if option 2 is checked, because option 2 does not have this condition. So let me click save, and then let's see. It keep forgetting to fill this out. We'll work on this. You need. I think this has to be unique in some way. Only lowercase letters. Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay, that's what I'm told if I read everything. There we go. Okay, so let me save this and see how we did. Okay, so option 1. Uh-oh. Okay, let's do some troubleshooting. Sometimes you do have to poke around at this a little bit. Because, oh, here we go. Okay, this didn't save. That's why. That makes sense. All right, let's see if it saves. There we go. Okay, great. So, and I would tweak this because obviously this isn't exactly what we wanted, but then if you click the see more, that was that more feature. So effectively, I realize it's a little bit different, but this effectively is what they have here in terms of the functionality. And in the interest of time, we're going to consider this good. So this example, or this web form, is called temporary judge example. I want to add this to a page. But before I do that, I did just remember, I also want to show how to add the email handler so that when someone, an actual member of the public, uses this web form and hits submit, we want to make sure this actually goes someplace. So you're going to click on settings up here at the top and then click email/handlers. And then this is actually pretty straightforward. You just click on email. I'll just call it email. And I think that we're going to want to, let's see, which one is it? Okay, so this is, you can have it CC somewhere or BCC, but if it's connected to the site email, then it will go to the website generic email. Probably 99% of the time, you're going to want to click custom. And then this lets you, I'll just put in my email address, but there are other options, as you can kind of see, but pretty much like you can have it select from some radios or et cetera, but you're probably going to want the custom here. And then there are other options, but you can click save and then save handlers. And then now when the user goes through and clicks submit, that's going to go to my email address. Okay, so, but the next step is we want to add this to an actual page. So let's go to that blank page that I set up. Web form test page, here it is. Okay, let me click on it to show what we have now. Blank page. To add the web form that we just created to this page, we're going to click on the components dropdown, and there is actually a component called add web form. And then from here, you can have a title and some descriptive text if you want it, or you can just from this dropdown select any of these web forms, and there are quite a few. These are all kind of like example web forms, but this is the one that I just created. So let me click save. And here we go. Here it is. And you'll notice that it is styled a little bit differently when you're on the actual page versus on the back end view of it. But yeah, this is our web form. Let me stop right there and make sure there are any questions. I do want to move on to the next part of the presentation pretty soon. And I know that there's a lot to go through on web forms, so I did do that quickly, but any questions that people have? Great. And if you do find yourself creating a web form and you need some assistance with it, definitely reach out to our web content email address. We're happy to help, and we do actually help troubleshoot these pretty often. And sometimes they do get quite tricky if if something isn't working correctly, if you want it to do a very specific thing, it might just require a couple of extra heads to troubleshoot it. So definitely feel free to reach out. Okay, so for the next part of today's webinar, I want to talk through, this again, I know is something that we've talked about before, but we've had additional questions and requests to go over grants again. So the grant access, which is on every page, and it's right here, this enables people to, people who are blanking on the word. Let me see. People who have the contributor access, right? So if you are designated as a contributor, you have to have someone grant you access to specific pages. So what I'm going to walk through does not apply to people who have editor, manager, or author access. This is just specifically for people who have contributor access. And this lets you edit, publish content anywhere on the site, but only if someone has granted you access to specific pages. And so you can be granted access to one page or 50, but it does manually have to be added. And so how you would do that is, let me go to maybe the self-help page, because that's actually pretty relevant. If you're someone who works in self-help, you might only need to edit just the self-help homepage, right? So if you need permission to just edit this and you're a contributor, a manager will have to click on grants. And then I think I saw Jenny on the call. So let's say Jenny, who is a user, search. There she is. And you do need to click on both view and edit, and then say save grants. And then from there, I think Jenny probably is actually designated as maybe an admin, but if she were a contributor, this would allow her to edit this specific page. Pretty straightforward, but you do have to make sure that you search the person's name, click search, find them here, and then do view and edit. Select both of those and click save. And then from there, you're good to go. Should be set up. Okay, so the next.
So I think this is a bit confusing because from this page, I have no way to tell whether I'm granting permission for contributor or editor, right?
So yeah, it is confusing in that sense. But if someone is an editor or a manager or any other, if they have any other role, the grants doesn't really apply because they're already granted access. It only really matters for people who are just contributors, because if you're a contributor, you'll come onto the site and you won't be able to click edit. Even if you're logged in, you won't be able to click edit anywhere. But if someone grants you permission, then you can edit that specific page.
And doing it this way is page-specific permission or site-wide?
It's just page specific. Yeah, so okay. that permission level of contributor, it's it is specifically for people who you don't, maybe they don't need to, or you don't want them poking around your online services section of the site or that sort of thing. And we created this permission level because we did get requests from several courts saying that they have some court staff that really only need to be editing 1 or 2 pages, and to cut back on any security risks or any just like mistakes that could possibly happen. They wanted to make it so that you could restrict users' access to specific pages. So that's the purpose. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you.
I found that using it helps to. This is Neil from Tulare. The menu options, structure, appearance, configuration, those disappear when you start using that method. We found it useful here.
That's a great point. Yep. Yeah, that's a great point. Some courts don't use it at all, and some courts use it for most of or all of their staff. So it really is kind of dependent on your particular workflow. It's not a requirement, I should say. Okay, then we also had some questions that we wanted to walk through regarding translation. And this is one of those areas of the site that is a little bit, can be a little bit tricky because it's not as convenient as we would like it to be. Some courts do just use a Google Translate. If that's you, this doesn't necessarily apply to you. But if you do have your site translated by a human translator, you are going to see, this is probably news to no one, but you're going to see this blue translate button right here on your site. And so this is in regard to this particular translate button, and how this functions is you go to a page, and if you click the translate button and toggle to Espanol, then the content is translated like this. And this is a human translation that's on the page. So let me go ahead and stick with Inyo as the example here. So let me toggle back to English. And this translate button right here, if I click on translate, then you'll be able to see what this looks like with the English variant of the page and then the Spanish variant of the page. And these are both tied to this specific page. So maybe this is actually going to be a good example. If I go back to El Condado, let me go here. Let me go to a page that's not translated. This will be, I think, super clear. I'm on their employment page here. If I click translate on El Condado, you'll see that Spanish is not set up. But if I click add to add the Spanish variant, this is where permissions become relevant again, because only certain people with specific permission levels are able to touch the translation page. So if you have a page that is translated into Spanish and you are able to edit it, this is where you can talk to us and we can give you the translator permission level, and then that will allow you to actually edit this. Or if you have a translator on staff, for example, and you feel comfortable editing the translated version of the page, but you're not technically able to, let us know and we can enable this. I am an admin, so I actually can edit this. If I click edit, it gives me this warning, but it actually does let me edit it. You'll see, even though I'm in the Spanish version of the page, it automatically populates with the English before it's translated. So a translator will come in here, they will already see the English content, and then they will translate it based on the content that's here. And then so that lets them edit based on the most up-to-date version of the English page, because it's just mirroring the same English content. But yeah, it's gonna only save here if I were to click save. So if I go back to a real live version on Inyo's site and click edit, This is where you can kind of see how the page is actually set up in Spanish. Like this. And so if I were a translator, I could come in here and I can edit this just like any other page. It just happens to be in Spanish. And then if your English page gets out of sync with your Spanish variant pages, that's when you can reach out to us and we can retranslate pages using our vendor. And so I believe is it Lassen? Lassen right now, we're right in the middle of retranslating their site because they had, I think, 10 new pages and just a lot of content that was completely out of sync from their Spanish variant. And I think that for Lassen, we actually removed this button for them while we were in the midst of translating their content. So it is a little bit of a, we have to work with you at some level to keep the content up to date. But we're happy to do so. But if you do happen to have a translator on staff or someone that you can work with to edit the content, you are able to do it. You just might need to reach out to us to get the correct permission level. If I go back to the people tab, I should go ahead and show this, that there is an actual permission for a translator. So if you are a manager or an editor or someone with a lower permission level and you aren't able to translate a page but you need permission to, you're the court staff's designated translator, there is this translator option. And I think that if you're a manager, you can assign people as a translator, and then they'll be able to translate any page on the site just like that. So I want to make sure I covered everything that people had in mind with regard to the translation question. Were there any other questions about that? And I know that this, oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, so if I make a change in the original English version, would it be automatically translated in the Spanish version?
It does not get translated automatically. And so this is the tricky part where you do have to monitor the content. And if there is particularly a legally relevant change that happens, it's something that will need to be changed in the Spanish variant.
So in other words, if I have to make a change in the English web page, I have to manually edit the other language version as well?
You will, yeah. It does not happen automatically. There's no machine translation that happens, and that's specifically because there is a mandate from the Judicial Council to, when possible, have human translation. And so, I mean, the backstop is that a lot of sites have the Google Translator, and also, I mean, web browsers always have some sort of a translation widget that comes with it. So users technically can use that as a backstop. But in terms of the translation that we're talking about here, that is a human translation. So yeah, there is no like machine translator component to it.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Oh, for sure. Okay, we are now at the question and answer period of the talk today. So I want to go ahead and open it up to any questions that people might have. And I do want to reiterate that at any time you can reach out to us, webcontent@jud.ca.gov. I know everyone probably already has this handy, but if not, I'm going to put this in the chat. And then also I'm going to put in the chat the link to our Drupal training guides once again, so that you can bookmark that if you haven't already. So we have these Drupal training guides. This covers basically everything at some level, sometimes not as in-depth as we would like, but you should be able to find almost anything you're looking for in terms of running your site at that link. Okay, now let me open it up and see if there are any questions in the group. And it doesn't have to be related to these topics. Let me just open it up to any potential questions you might have about managing your site. Okay, we do have a question. I don't believe we were able to cover the site search and logs of search portion in the previous webinar. Site search. So perhaps you can clarify. I actually forget what the plan was to go over with that topic. Was there something specific that you had in mind?
Yeah, I was looking to see when that search bar right there that's on the top of the website, are those logged anywhere, what people have recently searched or in the history of that?
Whoa, good question. Is there a search log?
Because we were having people, we've had a few people contact us. They're trying to search case numbers there and telling us that our site's not working for public access. And we're
Okay.
just trying to inform them that, hey, you're using the wrong search field.
So let me ask Stephen, by any chance, are you on the call? This might be a question for another member of my team. He might be on another call right now, but this is a great question. Let me get back to you on this. Very good question. Okay, we also have a question. Can you capture digital signatures in web forms? I believe you can. Let me check. Let me go back to my example web form. Okay, I believe I've seen this or maybe used this once or twice. But it has been quite some time. Let me see how this might look. And I remember, yeah, you might have to play around with what you're looking for. Let's see how this looks. Okay, yeah, so I think that you'd want to probably tweak this. Let me go to our page that shows our web form to get the real view of it. Okay, so this is what it kind of looks like. Again, I think that you can tweak it. But yes, if I were to click submit to this, I think that it submits like a picture of whatever people put in here. Good question. So I do want to say that at the next webinar that we have, I think in December or something, we're going to cover a topic that I think is really important, which is going to be the new locations page that we're going to be rolling out. It's on the brink of being done. I've been saying this for quite some time, but we do actually have the final version of it ready to go. And we're not releasing it right now just because of the holidays. But I believe the first week of December, we will be rolling out the new locations page. So if you want to be an early adopter of that, let us know. We're going to be rolling the new locations pages out on San Bernardino, Contra Costa, and some of the newer sites that we most recently launched. So yeah, let me know, and then we will be officially walking through how to set that up and what that looks like at the next webinar. So if you have a chance, come to that next webinar or encourage your team members to come, because it's going to be I think an exciting one, and not as technical as web forms, which will be great. Okay, we have one more question here. So the El Condado site has released suggested content for other new laws, features like My Citations and restraining orders. Will there be anything for the CARE Act release for the sandbox site. It sounds like this is probably a request for that to be there. So let me go ahead and say yes. I'll add that to my to-do list. Let me just check and make sure that's not there already. Oh, it's totally not. So great point. So one thing that I think is great to keep in mind with regard to the CARE Act is that as it's been rolling out to more and more courts, every court has been doing it somewhat differently and using somewhat different, getting more specific or less specific with the details, using different images. So do take a look at how other courts are presenting their CARE Act materials, just because I think that you're going to want to customize it. But at the same time, I think that's a great idea that we could have some kind of like generic content that could go in here. And we probably will put it down here in the content recommendations section of El Condado. And yeah, I can start working on that. Guess I'm out quite a bit next week, but maybe the week after. That's a great idea. I will also note that my previous supervisor, Mark Gelade, he has been helping out some courts with their CARE Act materials. So if you're looking for a contractor to set up that information for you, I'll give him my glowing recommendation because he is available to help with that if you need someone. Okay, we have one more question, it looks like. I believe we looked at the anchor links and accordion IDs in the last webinar. There was an issue that if you were navigating to the anchor hyperlink from outside the site, not through a hyperlink placed on the page, it would not go to the anchor to open the target. Is there an update to this? Wyatt, I believe this was fixed. If not, it is a ticket in our backlog. I'm blanking on whether or not we got to this particular ticket. I know we worked on something with anchor text. There was some bug with it. Let me get back to you on this as well. So that's a good question. Site. Okay, great. I know that Sam from Alameda had an anchor link issue as well. And that we did solve quite some time ago. So I believe, Sam, that was opening accordions to a specific spot, right? I believe that's what that ticket was, and we did fix that one. Great, good questions, guys. Anything else? All right. If anything does come to mind, feel free to reach out at any time. I'll send out some notes from what we covered today, along with a link to the webinar that you can share with folks. And if you also do create some web forms, by the way, that you think might be valuable to the community, let me know. I do actually have a log of webinars that are particularly creative and have some elements at use that I think are cool to use. So let me know, and I do keep track of those, and maybe we can make it useful for the broader community. And with that, maybe we'll go ahead and wrap up a couple minutes early. Thank you again, everyone. Really appreciate your time today.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you, Peter.